Hey everyone, it's Damon. Picture Jack. He had it all. Dream job, perfect family, unshakable faith. Life was sweet. Then, bam, his sister's cancer diagnosis hit like a freight train. Ever felt your world falling apart? That was Jack. Suddenly, the God he knew seemed a million miles away. But hold up. Jack's story? It's just beginning. What happens next is so unexpected, so powerful, it'll make you question everything about faith and suffering. Ready for a mind-blowing journey? Stick around, because this could change how you see God and pain forever. You know that feeling when life throws you a curveball? That's exactly what happened to Jack. One minute, he's on top of the world, praising God for all his blessings. The next, he's sitting in a sterile hospital room, watching his sister fight for her life. Imagine the shock when Jack heard those devastating words, "Your sister has cancer." It was like someone pulled the rug out from under his feet. His sister, the one he'd grown up with, shared secrets with, and protected all his life, was now facing the fight of her life. Can you picture how Jack felt? His whole world turned upside down in an instant. All those things he thought he knew about God, about faith, about life, they suddenly didn't make sense anymore. He found himself asking questions he never thought he would ask. Why her? Why now? Where are you, God? It's like being on a roller coaster you never asked to ride. And let me tell you, it's not a fun ride at all. But here's where Jack's story takes an interesting turn. Instead of just wallowing in his pain and anger, which, let's be honest, would have been totally understandable, Jack did something that might sound a little crazy. You won't believe what he did next. You know, it's so simple, but it changed everything for him. Are you ready for this? Jack picked up his dusty old Bible. Yeah, that's it. I know, it doesn't sound like much, right? But hang on, because what Jack found in there, it was mind-blowing. See, Jack hadn't really read his Bible in years. Sure, he'd flip it open on Sundays, or when he needed a quick pick-me-up, but this time was different. This time he was desperate. He was looking for answers, for comfort, for anything that could make sense of the mess his life had become. And you know what? As Jack started reading, something incredible happened. He found verses that spoke directly to his pain, words about God collecting our tears, about Jesus understanding our suffering. It was like he was seeing these passages for the first time. It hit him. God wasn't some distant figure who didn't care about his pain. No, God was right there with him, feeling every bit of his hurt. But here's the kicker. What Jack discovered next is going to blow your mind. It's not just about God understanding our pain. It is about how he uses it, how he can take the worst moments of our lives and turn them into something beautiful. Jack found stories of people in the Bible who went through unimaginable suffering, yet came out stronger on the other side. And not just stronger for themselves, but able to help others in ways they never could have before. You know that feeling when God seems a million miles away? When you're screaming into the void and getting nothing but silence back? That's exactly where Jack found himself. He was flipping through his Bible, feeling lost and alone, wondering where God was in all the mess. But hang on, because what happened next is going to blow your mind. Jack kept reading, desperately searching for something, anything to hold on to. And then, out of nowhere, he stumbled across a verse that hit him like a ton of bricks. It was Psalm 56, verse 8, and it said, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." Can you believe that? The God of the universe, keeping track of every single tear you've cried? Jack sat there, trying to wrap his head around this idea. Could it really mean that God cares about his pain? Like, really cares? And that was just the beginning. As he kept reading, Jack discovered something even more incredible. He found out that Jesus knows exactly what it's like to suffer. Think about it. Jesus experienced pain, betrayal, and even felt abandoned by God on the cross. Jack read in Isaiah 53, verse 4, "Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows." It was like a light bulb went off in his head. He started to see things differently. Maybe God wasn't distant after all. Maybe he was right there in the middle of the pain with us. And then Jack came across another verse that really drove it home. Hebrews 4 verses 15 to 16 says, "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who's been tempted in every way, just as we are." As Jack sat there taking all this in, something started to change. It was subtle at first, but it grew stronger every day. He began to feel this presence. It was like a warmth, a comfort that he couldn't quite explain. Jack started to sense God's presence in ways he never had before. And it wasn't just in the good moments, it was in the hard ones too. When he sat in the hospital with his sister, feeling helpless and scared, there was this undercurrent of peace he couldn't explain. When he was up late at night, worrying about the future, there was a whisper of hope that cut through the fear. Jack discovered that God shows up in the darkest moments, in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes it's just a feeling of not being alone. Sometimes it's the right words from a friend at just the right time. Sometimes it's a sudden burst of strength when you thought you had nothing left to give. And here's the really crazy part. Jack started to see his pain differently. It became a way for him to connect with God on a deeper level. He experienced firsthand what it means for God to be close to the brokenhearted. And he began to understand that this journey through pain wasn't just about him. It could actually help others who are going through tough times too. You know those moments when everything suddenly clicks? When the fog clears and you see things in a whole new light? Well, that's exactly what happened to Jack. And let me tell you, it's going to blow your mind. So Jack had been digging into his Bible, right? He was feeling a bit better, but still wrestling with some big questions. Why did his sister have to get cancer? Where was God in all of this mess? He wanted answers, but he wasn't quite sure he was ready for them. Then one day, Jack stumbles across this verse that just rocks his world. Can you imagine how it felt? He's reading along, and suddenly, bam! His heart starts racing, and he can't believe what he's seeing. Now I know what you're thinking. What could be so mind-blowing in a Bible verse? Well, hold on to your seats because we're about to get there. But first, let's talk about what was going through Jack's mind. He's reading this verse, and at first he's confused. How can anything good come from his sister's cancer? It doesn't make sense. He's angry, hurt, and honestly, a little scared to believe it could be true. But here's where it gets interesting. Jack starts to think about all the times in his life when bad things turned out okay in the end. And suddenly it hits him. This verse isn't saying bad things are good. It's saying God can use them for good. Are you ready for the verse that changed everything? Here it is. Romans 8:28. It says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose." Boom. Mind blown, right? Jack's whole world just flipped upside down. He's seeing everything differently now. It's like he's got a new pair of glasses, and suddenly he can see God's fingerprints everywhere. But here's the thing, it wasn't easy. Jack had to wrestle with this idea. He had to really think about what it meant to trust God, even when things looked bad. And you know what? That's where the real growth happens. It's crazy how one little verse can change everything, isn't it? But that's exactly what happened to Jack. He started to see how God could use even the toughest times for good. Not just for him, but for others too. And get this, there's actually research that backs this up. Studies show that people who can reframe negative experiences in a positive light cope better with stress. It's like our brains are wired to respond to hope. But wait, there's more. Because what Jack did next, it's going to inspire you like crazy. He didn't just keep this newfound hope to himself. Nope. Jack decided to take action, and that's when things really started to change. Stick around because you won't believe what happened next. Hey everyone, remember Jack, the guy who was struggling with his faith while his sister battled cancer? Well, hold on to your seats, because his story is about to take an incredible turn. Picture this. Jack's starting to trust God again, even though things are still tough. But here's where it gets amazing. People around him begin to notice something different. They're watching him navigate this crazy situation, and they're blown away by his strength. Can you imagine how that felt for Jack? He is still dealing with his own pain, and suddenly folks are coming up to him asking, "How are you staying so strong?" At first he is like, "Me? Strong? But then it hits him. This is his chance to share his story and what he has learned about God's presence in the midst of suffering. So Jack starts opening up. He talks about finding God in his darkest moments, about how Jesus really gets our pain. And you know what? People are hanging on every word. They're finding hope in Jack's experience. It's like his pain becomes this bridge connecting him to others who are hurting. Now here's where it gets even cooler. Jack's pain, the very thing that almost broke him, becomes a source of strength for others. It's part of something bigger called post-traumatic growth. It's when people actually grow stronger after going through tough times. And get this, research shows that up to 70% of people who've been through trauma experience some form of this growth. That's huge. This growth can look like getting a new perspective on life, having better relationships, or just appreciating life more. And that's exactly what was happening to Jack. His pain was transforming him, making him more compassionate and stronger. Jack's story inspired him to start a support group at his church. It's incredible to see how these groups become safe spaces where people can share their stories. Experts say sharing your story can be therapeutic. It helps you process what you've been through, find meaning in the mess, and connect with others. So there's Jack leading this group, sharing his story and watching as others find hope and healing. It's like his pain has become this beacon of light for people stumbling in the dark. And the coolest part, Jack's still growing and healing himself. Every time he shares a story, every time he sees that light of understanding in someone else's eyes, he feels a little bit stronger, a little more whole. Hey guys and gals, feeling like God's gone missing when life gets tough? You're not alone. Jack's story isn't just about him. It's about all of us who've struggled. God sees your pain, feels it with you, and can use it in amazing ways. It's like he's writing an incredible story through your struggles. Remember, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. So, when you're feeling down, think of Jack, and know God's right there, collecting every tear. Take a moment to reflect on your own journey. You might be surprised at how God's working in your life. And stick around. We've got more inspiring stories coming that could change everything for you. Stay blessed by the best.